what we are entering is a very important subject, which is the VALS program. There is an organization called SRI led by Arnold Michel, developed a generalized segmentation scheme for the American population, which is even otherwise useful. People who have understood and smartly used have benefited. This is known as the Values and Lifestyle Program, VALS. VALS is a marketing and consulting tool that helps business worldwide to develop and execute more effective strategies. And so VALS program is the base of development of your effective marketing strategies. The system identifies current and future opportunities by segmenting the consumer marketplace on the basis of personality traits that drive consumer behavior. This VALS program, which is a system in itself, it identifies current and future opportunities by segmenting the consumers on a personality traits. VALS applies in all phases of the marketing process, from the new product development to the entry stage targeting to the communication strategy and advertising. The basic tenet of VALS is that the people express their personality through their behavior. VALS specially defines consumer segment on the basis of those personality traits that affect behavior in the marketplace. So now to go forward, VALS focuses on how consumer behavior, rather than looking at what people do and segregating people with like activities. VALS uses psychology to segment people according to their distinct personality traits. The personality traits are the motivation, the cause, that is the personality trait is my motivator, and it motivates me to do certain things. Buying behavior becomes the effect. So the cause and effect, as we say, there has to be, for any action there has to be the cause and effect. So the cause is the motivation and effect is my buying behavior. So this particular VALS segment has understood this very well. The observable, that is the external behavior prompted by the internal driver. So that is observable. So cause, effect and observable. So VALS uses psychology to analyze the dynamics underlying consumer preferences and choices. So here the aspect is, how do I go about choosing my product, my brand? So that's the arena in which the VALS helps marketeers a lot. VALS not only distinguishes differences in motivation, it also captures the psychological and material constraints on consumer behavior. So beyond motivation, consumers are driven by material constraints. So do I have that? And accordingly my decision swings in favor of particular product or the brand. As per the VALS, people with different personalities engages in different behavior or exhibit similar behavior for different reasons. Now this is what one need to really understand. As per the VALS, people with different personality engage in different behavior or exhibit similar behavior for different reasons. Under this, adult 18 years plus are classified into distinctive lifestyle groups. That is, each group has psychological needs, that is values, and behavioral response pattern, that is lifestyle. So I have certain basic need which are represented out here as values, and behavioral response to this is my lifestyle. So much of VALS blends together demographics, attitudes, activities, consumption pattern, brand preferences and media graphics. So the understanding of the VALS and the work done on that really then helps you to blend those aspects that has been mentioned. VALS typology is used to segment markets for their product and services and to target their promotional efforts. So it can be used during product launches, etc. So by using psychology to analyze and predict the consumer preference and choices, the current VALS system creates an explicit link between personality traits and purchase behavior. This is a summation of the VALS 1. While we move on to VAL 2, typology classifies the American population into 3 general consumer groups and then subdivides these major categories into a total of 8 distinctive subgroups of segment. So now they have moved further and created a distinct classification. So that same American group, VAL 2 created a further distinct classifications. VAL 1 was on this premise, while 2 created a further distinct classification for much better clarity, understanding and usefulness. The main dimensions of the segmentation framework are primary motivation, the horizontal dimension, and resources, the vertical dimension. So resources is the vertical dimension, and as they say, the motivation, which is the horizontal dimension. Primary motivation, ideals, achievement and self-expression. So what you saw, those three distinct classification: ideals, achievement and self-expression. The concept of primary motivation explains consumers' attitudes and anticipates behavior. So what is the attitude of the consumer? So this primary division which has happened on the premise, or in terms of understanding the nature of consumer attitude and what kind of behavior that you can expect from such consumers. VALS included the three primary motivation that matters to understand the consumer behavior: ideals, achievements and self-expression. So if I have to go back, ideals, achievement, self-expression, I am repeating this again and again, doing this so that sink in happen in your mind. Consumers who are primarily motivated by ideals are guided by knowledge and principles. Consumers who are primarily motivated by achievement look for products and services that demonstrate success to their peers. So we need to now see this, thinkers and delivers. So what it says, that consumers who are primarily motivated by ideals are guided by knowledge and principles. So if the people are more of this, then they are thinkers, they are therefore can be influenced by giving them something which is analytics for them, which will give them the complete information. He thinks that he has taken a right decision. So it's like a knowledge and principle. Consumers are motivated the achievement, look for product and services that demonstrate success among their peers. Achievers and strivers. Somebody who achieves things and somebody who strives to achieve. But they are those achievers league and achievement driven. So you have to then think of providing them something which is for them to represent as a success to their peers, etc. Consumers who are primarily motivated by self-expression desire social or physical activity, variety and the risk. So if I am like evolved, if I am motivated by self-expression, now in life there is a stage where then you are not driven by recognition, money, etc. You are driven by self-expression. Like you think that if you do this, you feel fulfilled. Now at that point of time, how do you provide this thing? So it's an experiencers and makers. Somebody who really experiences what he does and somebody who makes things happen. So this motivation provides us necessary basis to communication while types of and variety of strategic applications. So like once you understand these three vertical dimensions, like you are in a position to know what kind of consumers you have. Resources, a person's tendency to consume goods and services extends beyond age, income and education. So we have touched base on this aspect, resources, earlier. Energy, self-confidence, intellectualism, novelty seeking, innovativeness, impulsive leadership play a critical role. This psychological traits in conjunction with key demographic determines individuals' resources. So resources like is a derivative of my psychological traits and my demographics, that is represented. Various levels of resource enhances or constrains a person's expression of his primary motivation. So depending on my resourcefulness, my expression will change, and if I have a resourceful personality, my expression will be of freedom, self-expression, etc. But if I do not have a resourceful personality, I'll be always constrained, therefore then I will probably get into managing, balancing, etc. So then like what kind of products that I will own, what kind of lifestyle I will live, etc. So I hope you as a student understand this. So how do you go about segmentation under VALS 2? So that is the main dimension of the VALS frameworks are the primary motivation, there is the horizontal dimension, and resources, that is the vertical dimension. So the three main boxes that you saw vis-a-vis the vertical dimensions, that is what are the resources there. So that is what we are trying to understand. Vertical dimension, this is a horizontal dimension, and this is a horizontal dimension and the vertical dimension. So this is what we are trying to understand. As we move forward, we'll try to see that is the motivation and the resource. It's a combination of motivation and resource. So this is a model that we have studied earlier. So the vertical dimension segment people based on the degree to which they are innovative and have resources such as income, education, self-confidence, intelligence, leadership skills and energy. So this is a vertical dimension which is a resource, this thing, and on that this is the thing that has been looked into. So that's what I am trying to give you the additional inputs, which is in this vertical dimension, people based on what level they are on these parameters, and you can have your own parameters. There is now no constraint as such. The horizontal dimension represents primary motivations and includes three distinct types. So horizontal dimension, as we have seen, are representing the primary motivations and includes three distinct types. So consumer driven. So first is the consumer driven. By knowledge and principles are motivated primarily by ideals. So this is what it means. Horizontal dimension is this way. Do not believe it is this way. So therefore it is treated as horizontal dimension. Consumers driven by a desire for social or psychological or physical activity, variety and risk taking are motivated primarily by self-expression. These consumers include the group known as experiencers and makers. And so consumers driven by desire for social and physical activity, variety, risk taking and motivated primarily by self-expression. So now we are trying to take you through that. So these consumers include the groups known as experiencers and makers. Experiencers and makers. So it's a self-expression driven consumers. So the horizontal dimension represents primarily okay, we have studied this. At the top of the rectangle are the innovators who have such high resources that they could have any of the three primary motivations. So what we have shown at the top is the innovators. They can be driven by any of three motivators. So those who are innovators can be driven by ideal or achievement or self-expressions. And so that's what this line means. At the bottom of the rectangle are the survivors who live complacently within their means without strong primary motivation of the type that is listed above. If I am limited on my resource, you know how people live kind of thing. So the VALS framework gives more details about each of the groups. So we need to therefore understand VALS group, this thing. Resource under VALS 2 helps you to develop a demographic and socio-economic profile, post-profiling. So now how do you go and exploit VALS as a framework for your marketing success? So get into the profiling, have demographic, it will also give you socio-economic profile. Post profiling, you develop your segment description, which we have earlier covered, and you must also realize that each of these 8 segments differ in some important ways. For instance, believers tend to buy goods produced by domestic manufacturers, thus slow to create a behavioral shift. So as we have seen in that, there are those segments that will emerge like this. So believers, as I said, believers, now they have a profile which you need to understand. So what we have tried to tell you is that this believer, their importance is like, say, I will prefer make in India. So if that is the case, traction for me to move me change to the foreign goods will be very slow. The shift will be very slow. So this is me. If you create a traction which will help me to shift, so you will take a time to shift me. So that's what it means. So if you are targeting believers, then you need to know what you need to spend on. So that's critical. That is useful in developing segmentation. So VALS framework overall, what we are trying to tell you is to really bring out psychographic based segmentation for any marketeers. So that's one critical aspect that one need to really understand at the end of this particular activity, where how VALS system or overall the aspect of psychographic this thing helps you to create a better marketing segmentation which is profitable, targetable, wherein one very prominent format, which is a VALS format, really helps marketeers, though it is developed on American population, but as it says, it has been useful even to marketeers around the world.